Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video, and 11.1 is just around the corner, and you're going to have to make that all-important decision on what class and specialization are you going to play for this patch. And in today's video, we're going to be covering Druid and why it's a really, really good choice, why it's looking like a big winner for patch 11.1. And if you want to make sure that you're staying up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, then make sure to smash that subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated. Now, Druids, they've had their talent trees reworked multiple times in multiple patches, and every time they're left a little bit irking. It's just not exactly where it needs to be. But this time around, it seems like Blizzard have definitely hit the nail on its head when it comes to the Druid class tree and its organization and its flow towards the bottom. It's way more accessible to get really all of the cool stuff that is available, all of the mandatory stuff that is available to your class in any form of content, which I thought was also really impressive, because sometimes the talent trees skew. They're either really favored towards PvE, or they're really favored towards PvP, or they're really favored towards AoE, or maybe favored to Feral but not Boomkin, and things like that. But with how they've laid out the talent tree now, you'll see that all of the physical damage dealing abilities are focused towards the left side of the tree. So if you want to avoid that style of play, you absolutely can avoid it. But if you want to incorporate it, it's going to just all be available towards the left side of the tree. And on the right side of the tree, we have much more focus towards magic damage spells like Star Surge, Sunfire, increasing our dot damage and increasing the range of our spells and abilities. So if you want to focus more of your combat around range damage, you'll be able to go towards the right side of the tree, physical towards the left. And the middle is focused more towards healing and survivability, given that these are focused around Guardian and Resto Druid. And some of the talents that were previously more annoying to get, something like Improved Nature's Cure, is really easy. It's just boom, boom, you're in there. You don't even just boom, Frenzied Regen, Ursoc Spirit. I don't even think you need to get Rejuve if you're playing a Boomkin. Other than Resto Druid, I'm kind of highlighting this tree as Resto at the moment because Resto's got some of the most epic new stuff, but it's just boom right there. You can get that immediately. All of the survivability you're able to pick up without having to take any kind of what may seem as useless kind of physical damage abilities if you're not looking for that in your build. And they've also added Skull Bash smack dab in the middle of the tree, so it's really easy to get with multiple veering paths if you don't even want to go for it at all. So it's really easy to get this interrupt. It's a lot more accessible, especially for content like Mythic Plus, but I think even in PvP for Resto Druid. Do note, though, for Boomkin, you do not get Skull Bash here. You get all right, Rufius, thank you for interrupting the video. You do not get Skull Bash as Boomkin. You get the Light of the Sun, which reduces the cooldown of your Solar Beam by 15 seconds, which I think is wise on their part. I think Boomkin having Skull Bash and Solar Beam is too many keybinds, number one, and having two interrupts gets a little bit too strange. And as a Boomkin player, spending any huge amount of time in like cat form and stuff like that, I'm not a big fan of. So you don't need to worry about the keybind bloat. At least for Balanced Druid, because this won't be there. But for every other spec of Druid, you're able to get Skull Bash way easier. And then when we move down towards the bottom part of the tree, you'll see that one side's focused around mobility and survivability, and you're able to pick up all of them. You can get the damage reduction, you can get Wild Charge, you can get Well-Honed Instincts very easily, or cooldown reduction around it, Bark Skin, or we can go for Feline Swiftness, because this is moved down here, as opposed to being gate kept by a bunch of physical damage abilities. We can pick up Bash, we can get Fluid Form if we really want to towards the bottom as far as customizing our play. And they've additionally added Skull Bash into Fluid Form, so we'll be able to just immediately land Skull Bash without having to preemptively shapeshift, although this does mean it's going to be a bit more keybind dense for Resto Druid players, I think, especially. With this build, but it means that you'll be able to just go from healing to kicking an important mob if you really need to for your group. You can build your character once again around physical. It's a choice towards the left, it's not connected to anything, or magic damage, a choice towards the right, which isn't connected to anything. So you can fully customize your Druid to the build that you would like to customize your Druid to. You can again focus on magic damage or focus around physical damage, and they really wanted to simplify the Druid playstyle for Resto, I think in particular, to either be kind of like you're more of a ranged Resto or a melee Resto, as opposed to trying to do all three of them at the same time and having a really complex rotation. So making it a bit easier to play in that sense, and you can focus more around a play style that you think is going to be more suited for you. There's new abilities coming in for Resto Druid, something like Symbiotic Relationship, which enables you to form a bond with an ally. Your self-healing also will heal your bonded ally, so it's kind of like Beacon of Light for Paladins, and your healing on the bonded ally will also heal you. This is going to make Resto Druid really powerful in like 2v2 situations. It'd be really nice for putting on your tank, and then just having some hot slapped up on yourself in the tank, and then being able to go in for damage, and it's going to kind of support, the main structures of your group while you're able to get some damage out, which seems really awesome. You can build yourself towards more passive damage with Nature's Vigil, extend out into more mobility. They're bringing back some talents that they removed literally in the previous build, which was like improving your Typhoon. So it either is a longer radius with a increased range, or you can get a lower cooldown so you can knock back more times for more interrupts. And I actually really liked this talent back when it was introduced, and I was sad when it got removed in the first iteration, especially as balanced Druid. So getting the big Typhoon back, I think, is going to be a lot of fun for me personally. But I think they absolutely nailed it on the head. And this is what I like, as opposed to the borrowed power where they introduce something and they don't really get to finish it all the way through, and then they got to work on the next thing. It's kind of just scrapped and thrown into a corner. The fact that these hero talent trees are kind of permanent means that we can finally get to this level of design. Because to me, like, oof, this is chef's kiss, c'est magnifique talent tree for Druid, and I mean this for all four specs. Great layout for all content in the game, some new abilities as well tied into it, and I like the simplification of gameplay in this instance, because Resto Druid had really complex stuff going on with it. It's really cool. I think it is really cool. We obviously, for Resto Druid specifically in PvP, we're getting new PvP talents. We're getting the Ancient of Lore, which is this new tree farm. It's kind of buggy at the moment, but it's like an uppies basically for Resto Druid, where you just get 2 keybinds while you're in form. One of them just applies missing hots to the target. The other one's just a big AoE heal, but you do move extremely slow, so there is that trade-off. But its cooldown is also significantly lower at 1.5 minutes, so this could definitely see some play. I think it's meant to kind of give beginner healers a cooldown that's really strong to try and get you through the first couple seconds of a game, which can be really difficult, which for Resto Druid, especially because I do a lot of 2400 PvP challenges, when I see people at 0 rating, they really struggle for like the first 10 seconds. So if they get a button that makes the gameplay really easy, like, oh, I just spam this one button, and it can get them at least through the first 20 seconds of the game, I think it's going to be nice for them. I think in Battlegrounds also, it's going to give you a lot of extra healing, and it does give you damage reduction by 20%. So it's a nice little survivability, kind of beginner-friendly, BG-focused talent. The next one I think that everybody's talking about is Forest Guardian, and they've struggled for a while to kind of make going for Cyclones and doing damage not so punishing on Resto Druid. And this talent, I think, has finally enabled Resto to have some opportunities. Wrath, Starfire, Cyclone, and combo point generating abilities will increase the duration of your HOTS by 1 second on up to 3 allies, and your Star Surge and combo point spending abilities will increase the rate that your heals heal by 20%. So you can finally throw out some Star Surges without feeling like you're falling too far behind. Look like you're going for Cyclones without falling too far behind on healing, because it's actually going to be propelling your HOTS further into the future, which I think is really cool. And once they add Reforestation as well to Ancient of Lore, right now it's just not proccing it. I think that some Swiftmen builds with Wildstalker, I think build diversity is likely to increase. Resto Druid's going to probably have some of the most experimentation when it comes to builds with the changes that are coming in for it. I think it's gotten some of the most attention out of all of the specs available in 11.1. So you have a lot of new stuff, new builds to explore, cool PvP talents, emphasis and focus on making your gameplay more fun and beginner friendly, which I think are all culminating into a really perfect storm if you wanted to go for Druid. When we talk about the other specializations, they're basically just all getting buffs. Feral Druid's is directly getting buffs on a lot of its abilities. Guardian Druid's getting a lot of buffs on its abilities. Balanced Druid is staying, I think it's getting some buffs to some of its damage, but it's staying about in the same spot as far as competitive viability. And I just want to show you guys that the Light of the Sun is moving over here. It's not Skull Bash. So Light of the Sun was previously over here on the right side of the talent tree. Now you don't need to waste a point getting that. If you want the interrupt reduction, you can spend that on something that's going to give you more throughput, which is really nice. We're not seeing a huge amount of new PvP talents, although I would say like Boomkin has one of the most diverse PvP talent pool. I mean, look at it, it's already extending almost to the top of the screen. And for the most part, almost all of them are interchangeable in a lot of instances. So I'm not surprised to not see really anything new coming towards it. It's mostly just Resto Druid that got a huge focus and a huge emphasis. But if you liked your Boomkin in the last patch, you're going to like it in this patch. I'm really hoping to get some PvP survivability buffs because they are nerfing the Cyclone, but survivability is really rough on Boomkin in PvP situations, and I think even in PvE situations with Bear Form being like one of your only major cooldowns. But obviously this new Druid talent tree might open up some opportunities given that you're going to have more points that you don't need to be spending on physical damage abilities towards the left. And you can get Symbiotic Bond. I actually wonder why you would want to get that as Boomkin. You do like next to no healing as Boomkin. So I'm assuming this is, yeah, it's only self-healing. But there are cheeky PvP talents like Protector of the Grove, where when you heal an ally, it heals them really fast and hard. So if you had Symbiotic Relationship and you were Protector of the Grove, Boomkin might have some like double DPS 2v2 opportunities with a build like that. And I'm being absolutely serious with this. And also in Battlegrounds, if you were going to be like running around with a rogue and going after certain bases or a duo partner or something like that, Protector of the Grove is something that I've been picking up on my Battleground Blitz push, which has just got over 3k rating. And this is actually a build that I'm somewhat considering. So maybe even Boomkin might be getting a little bit of juice here, possibly for competitive PvP situations. In PvE, I'm not imagining that this is going to be too great, unless maybe you combo with Nature's Vigil. It gives you a little bit more of extra support, but I would find it hard to believe that it's going to be like superb in that sense. But mostly Resto Druid, I think, is the most improved here. But all the Druid specs are going to benefit from the baseline class tree improvements. And I think that this is the #1 class tree probably in the game as far as baseline class trees. And they're continuing to iterate. They're continuing to do future changes. We're entering some of the biggest testing phases that I've seen for the game in the immediate future over the next couple of weeks. So I'm really expecting some big changes because I think they want to nail in on the class balance and not have it as top heavy as it was for season 1. And specs that typically have an underperformance expansion like Feral Druid might get a lot of buffs, a lot of attention, so it could likely be really valuable. So definitely keep your eye on it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be bringing that news to you as we see it here as soon as it comes out, basically. So I appreciate your support in this journey. WoW is going in a transformative period of time right now, and I'm really curious to see how it plays out over this next kind of month and a half of major testing that Blizzard is employing for the game. But those are my thoughts on Druid as a whole. I think that it's benefiting the most of almost all the classes in the game, but Resto Druid I think most notably, and I think that they're great changes. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know with your thoughts in the comments down below. What are you interested in checking out? What class should I cover next? What's really got you intrigued? Let me know in the comments down below, and everybody else as well, because this is always one of the biggest decisions to make with a new patch or an expansion, is like what class or spec are you going to be dialing in to be checking out the new content with. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.